show you a little bit of this. In here, I've been digging in this spot this morning. The ground's all nice and wet. And then these wood chips. See, this one's all white and it's got this stringy, like, hair sort of stuff on it. This is mycelium. This stuff is rocking. This stuff is awesome. This is such a good thing to have around in the ground. It's just amazing. This is the real body of mushrooms. Little white stuff. There's a lot of it you can't even see. It's so tiny and small. And yet they're some of the biggest life forms on the planet and ancient, old school. They were eating the rocks so they can become soil before there is soil, so that we can have plants, so that there can be human beings. There are mushrooms. Mushrooms. Ancient, old school. Living in the earth. And they're pretty incredible, though. These spores can actually survive the vacuum of space, so that's pretty cool. They're kind of just floating around, I guess, sometimes, and finding, colonizing planets, creating soil, and then feeding it, enriching it. This is the mind of the soil, the life and the mind of the forest. This stuff is incredible. It actually informs like neural networks, like synaptic. Wow. It's amazing, and it is aware of all these different things going on in the forest, and there's some huge ones still intact. Some of the biggest life forms still on our planet are up in the west coast, Oregon. Gotta love it. And I was gonna introduce you out there to some of the old school, the big ancient mats, but this stuff is everywhere. Everywhere that there is life, everywhere there's a garden, wherever you're growing plants, there is this mycelium. This is a great place to start if you're gonna plant things way before you do. If you can be building up dead, decaying matter so they can be breaking it down, you want to have healthy, thriving mycelium. Mycorrhizal. That's what we got to figure out with that, is that every different plant is going to have a different kind of mushroom. Not everyone, but plants are going to have their own specific mushrooms, mycelium, that they want to pair with, that attach themselves to the ends of root systems, and they have this symbiotic relationship where the mycelium are feeding the roots, and the roots are feeding the mycelium things that they can't otherwise create. Pretty cool. And the mycelium can be moving nutrients all throughout the forest where it knows that it's needed, and moisture. It knows where it needs to go and can take it there. The stuff. This stuff. You need it. I got a little in here. I don't know that I actually do have mycelium in my drink. A lot of people are going specifically for the mycelium now for medicine, because it contains a lot of the like immune system stuff, because it's a lot of the immune system for the mushroom. It is the body of the mushroom. The mushrooms that pop up above ground, that's just reproduction, spreading spores. That's part of the cycle. Yeah, reproduction. That's the mushrooms having sex and playing in the sun. Most of the time it's living in the ground and on logs, on leaves. There's so many different kinds. There's actually some kinds that like to live on things like radiation and plastics and like really, really toxic stuff. There's so many different types. And so I'm not eating this because I don't know what kind it is. And you never know. There are so many different types. I don't think we know most of them. I think you could spend your whole life discovering new species and documenting new species of mushrooms. And please do that. Please be that person. There's so much to learn in this world. We know so little about it. What is going on in and creating our ground. Let's figure it out. Let's be those people. But good. Some of it is really good medicine. Some of them are incredibly toxic. That's why I'm not going to eat some of these without knowing. You have to know. Definitely threw up blood a few times, just trying to figure out wild mushrooms in the Ozarks and here and there. And I highly recommend not going that route, and you really need people who know. You gotta do your homework, and there's a lot of little tiny variations that separate really incredible medicines and, straight death. Yeah, cheers. And yeah, like I said, they all have different substrates that they want, like different growing mediums. Some are gonna break down wood, some are gonna break down leaf, some are just popping up in the ground in the yard, some they're all over the place. And what they're doing with this visible language they create, they are making gifts for you. I tried to hold it back. I couldn't. Terrence, love the man so much. So much. Thank you, Terrence. A lot of you know Terrence McKenna. Maybe some of you. He's amazing. He's an acquired taste. He's best taken alone in silent darkness and in high doses, like for real. And has a lot to say about human beings and our relationship with the mushrooms and cultural and language evolution, just so much that whether you agree with him or not, he doesn't always agree with himself. He's got to be who he is. Paul Stamets is kind of the man, the mushroom guru that a lot of us know for the medicinal. And thank you, Paul, for all the wonderful work you do for our world and spreading the medicine and the knowledge of it. It's pretty incredible stuff. And he's getting a lot more into the mycelium, it seems, or that's been a big part of his thing. This stuff, wow, some of those, like the reishi, that's just one of the best things. I'm pretty sure, don't take it from me, but I'm pretty sure that's one of the best things a human being can possibly ingest for overall health and vitality. It's weird how the mushrooms are kind of in their own class. They're not animals, they're not plants, but they are really similar to us and can be really, really helpful. Great for the garden. Each one's gonna have different specific ones. I'm kind of jumping all over, I feel like. Each one's gonna have a different plant that it likes to work with, like the Ericaceae, heath, blueberries and such have the ericoid fungi, and that's about all they really want and need. They want poor soil, good mycelium, but everything's gonna want it. That's something that settlers found when they were coming through into new places, new whatever, old gardens of other people that we need to take over with our own stuff, bring from home. And found that we couldn't necessarily bring those things. They wouldn't grow if you didn't also bring the mycelium to support them. So again, like from the ground up, building this relationship. You can't have healthy soil without the mycelium. You can't have the plants and you can't have the people. We are totally dependent on these beings, and is totally like the organic, Gaian mind. I really feel like the internet is a new kind of fractal of that, with this metallic crystal grid expansion creation of another form of this mycelial mat to share information and to spread anything to anywhere that it needs to go. And I think it's just absolutely wonderful for the planet being able to garden itself. It's been a little chaotic thinking it's about us, and it kind of is, but it's kind of about everything. So again, mycorrhizal are the ones you're going to want to figure out if you're working with them in the garden, and I highly suggest figure out what they are. Make a place. Always thinking that if you are on a hill, especially, that compost and maybe a little mycelial patch that you feed at the top, maybe some bacteria and mycelium, that you can feed them what they want, and let it rain, let it work down into the soil to build healthy soil. And healthy soil is going to take all this dead stuff. They enjoy growing in kind of disturbed soil. You break it up a little bit. Even walking in the forest, they're going to come behind you and do all kinds of wonderful things. And like, I've been digging in here a little by hand, so that can be helpful when we come in and plow, and we're just tearing everything up, and we're exposing it, we're flipping it over in these huge patches. We're clear cutting the forest, and the mycelium die out because they dry out, and that's not cool for anyone. Then you end up being my great grandparents in western Oklahoma in the Dust Bowl, and all your topsoil blows away. Don't do that. We did that. We learned. Hopefully, maybe we're still out there plowing, and it is what it is. Is what is not healthy. It's too efficient. A little bit here and there is really good for the spreading of the mycelium, but you want to be more or less leaving it intact and feeding layers, topsoil, old dead stuff to feed the new growth. And you'll know when you have it. It'll help hold the moisture. The ground will kind of hold together. Places, deserts, no mycelium, but old growth, mycelium. There's nothing like it. Sometime go to Jed Smith is one of my favorites in the fall, or just any good old growth forest is going to have all kinds of mushrooms popping up when it's wet. Most of them like the moisture and the kind of cool temperatures to be fruiting. And I love that in that ground. I really, really need that. I need that so bad, and I have for so long, to just lay on the ground and walk around. Someone want to take me to the old growth? Because, man needs it. We'll get there. Get back to that old growth when it's time. But there are mushrooms pretty well everywhere. There's good soil. So I got one story. Mr. Dog, Cadbury, the Kodiak Labrador. And one time he was out here, he was sick, man. He was real sick. He was hurting. He couldn't breathe. He was hacking up all this bacteria and weird stuff. All of his hair was falling out of his tail. He's just rough, man, rough. And he was in the vet, and they'd shaved all this stuff. He was living in a box, and they drained all this liquid off his lungs. He told me we needed all this money for tests, and I don't have that much money for tests, but I have enough money to take him somewhere beautiful that he can either be healed by it or he can die somewhere beautiful. And so we drove through Colorado the long way. He got out once to drink from a stream. And the rest of the way to California, and we were driving for days, back roads, national forests, lost. Pretty much didn't get up, just gasping for air in the back of the truck. And we got to Arcata, to the redwoods. His nose goes up in the air. He wants to get out, so we let him out. Well, what do you want? What is it? He runs right over this hill, hobbles over, and just starts eating the dirt. Just starts eating the hill. Just mowing, chowing the dirt. You into that dirt, dude? Is that where it's at? I guess. What's up with that? Let's check it out. So I go and I'll start digging in there with him and pull out, and you can pull out this dirt and hold it like it's like a chunk, like a brick. It's all holding itself together with all this thick white mycelial mass. These old growth mushrooms, who knows what kind of concoction, but he knew, Dr. Dog knew. That was the medicine. Go Kodiak and just dig up the dirt and eat it. What a champ. You know? And that was it. That's when he started getting better. And he started being able to move around more and could breathe and all that. And had him on a diet for a while of reishi spore powder. So mushroom spores, not mycelium, but come on, reishi spores? Are you kidding? Emperor China would have been jealous for like the past however many thousands of years. Have him on that, and spirulina, he would just eat it off the ground, get it caked all over his nose, just loved it, and that did the thing. I left him with the fam, came back months later, his hair had all regrown, it was the thickest and healthiest, shiniest it had ever been. And a lot of that, the reishi spore powder and spirulina, but what really started it and really got the thing going in the other direction is that mycelium. Mr. Dog. What a champ. Lives with the mycelium. He is one with the mycelium. Right over yonder, in the ground, surrounded by quartz from one of his favorite forests. Circle of life, had to go eventually, and that's how it goes. The bones of the ancestors, right? Feeding new life. No one knows it better or does it better than these guys, the mycelium. Old school teachers, the breaking down of the old, dead, useless, but the brittle, the lifeless, to make it into this powdery, amazing, incredible stuff that's just like potential to become anything. And as they're in the process feeding it, nourishing the roots, symbiotically trading the goodness and taking it everywhere it needs to go. Let's work with these beings They are making us. Let's help make them. We all thrive if we work together. And they're pretty important part of the puzzle, piece of the puzzle. Thank you. Again. Piece to the puzzle. Not sure.